For more on how we're going to deal with this wild weather, I'm joined by John Baffes, Senior Economist with the Development and Prospects Group at the World Bank here in Washington. Welcome back. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
This weather, it's not new. First of all, we've got these strange weather patterns around the world.
Yeah.
This El Nino issue that we've just discussed, how serious is it, and which countries are most likely to be affected?
Well, thank you for having me here. I think it's a bit early to know how serious it's going to be. Currently, the scientists tell us that the probability of 2014, 2015 being an El Nino year is somewhere around in the neighborhood of 70 to 75%. I think we'll know more by the end of next month or perhaps the beginning of July whether actually those 2 years are going to be El Nino years. And even then, we'll not know how severe they are. We'll know the severity towards the end of the summer.
What's the most damaging? Is it the droughts that is a byproduct? Is it the rain?
It's quite complex. It's a very complex weather phenomenon. It can cause droughts in many places in the world. It can cause floods. That's probably throughout the southern hemisphere. For example, it can cause droughts in South America. It can cause droughts and alter the weather patterns, let's say in India, less rain. It can cause problems in Australia where we may observe fires. But interestingly, it can cause reverse problems in the northern hemisphere, where we may observe more, perhaps, wet conditions and rain than usual. So it's a very complex phenomenon.
I don't want to get too complicated here, so we'll make it very easy.
Okay.
Countries who are, like India, for example, who are worried about this.
That's right.
And you say it's too soon to assess what to do, but they're already doing some stuff.
No, that's right.
Does this make sense?
It's too soon to know whether it's going to be an El Nino year, but not too soon to take measures. That's right, to prepare. There are a lot of countries that are likely to be affected in South America, and as I said, Peru, Uruguay, perhaps Brazil, Argentina, India, Bangladesh is a country that may be affected, Indonesia and Australia. I mean, there are a lot of things that governments can do. I mean, they can watch which regions are deficit in terms of food. They can watch which regions are surplus. Then to manage how they're going to transfer commodities from regions which are surplus.
Let me just ask you a dumb question by many measures. If there's a drought, if you're predicting a drought for your region, what can a country realistically do? You can't just make rain, I assume.
No, that's, of course, you cannot make rain, but what you can do is probably you can store some commodities in advance. You can make contractual arrangements with countries which are surplus that they can sell it to you and they buy from those countries. And typically it's good to have information on which regions are surplus and which regions are deficit, so the country can prepare accordingly and transfer the commodities and the food.
So your agency, with the backing of the World Bank, you talk to a lot of countries. How are you a resource for them? How do they use the information that you're giving out to help them?
Well, we advise the governments on many aspects, and in fact, the World Bank is in the business of making lending operations, and with the experience that we have with high commodity price back in 2008, the World Bank set up a program, the Global Food Security Program, and in fact, through that program, which is a fast dispersing operations program, we assist countries in making lending operations to either import food items when they need them or to import inputs for food production. And we, of course, will collaborate with a number of other institutions, including the World Food Program, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations based in Rome.
I have a weather question to ask you. We're at the beginning of hurricane season here in the United States. The rest of the world knows it as typhoons. We've had some awful disasters, weather-related, in the past couple of years. Is it me, or are the disasters getting worse, or is it because the media is reporting on it? Your perspective.
Well, I'm not a meteorologist, I'm an economist by profession, but I think it's perhaps a combination of both. The media are tending to report it perhaps more often than we used to. But perhaps it's also a result of more frequent adverse weather events that we have observed, not only in this country, but pretty much everywhere in the world in the last few years.
Certainly when that occurs, we immediately go to commodity prices, we go to the impact on the economy, and that's the first thing that a lot of folks do after a disaster like that. John Baffes, I want to thank you very much for your time. Senior Economist, Development Prospects Group at the World Bank. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.